So let us have a look what we did last time. So it's 2 weeks ago. So maybe a short recap. If you go to NoSQL data stores, or to the chapter NoSQL data stores, you see that last time we were discussing a bit more about the differences between NoSQL and SQL data modeling, by example. So we made up a data model with different properties. Both in a relational manner and also in a non-relational manner using MongoDB. And I think the presentations were quite nice. So we got, I think, a good impression what are the differences in particular that there are multiple differences, but among these is, for example, that in MongoDB you have a document, you have collections which you could somehow identify with tables, but they are not real tables because every row can be different. Yeah? So in every row there can be a different document. And also these mechanisms of foreign keys or modeling relations between elements using foreign keys that we use in SQL is not really present in that sense in MongoDB because we don't have fixed columns or things like that. But we can, of course, do that. But in many cases, it might be easier to have kind of non-atomic property table. So you can have a JSON object with another JSON object included. And so this might be also an option. Okay, so before we move on to the next form of data store, I would love to really explore a little bit more the usage or possible uses of MongoDB, particular in combination with or as a foundation for AI applications. And I think this also gives us a nice link between the two lectures, that advanced NLP and data platform architectures. So we could really, build on each other somehow, at least at one issue. So that would be the goal for today. And also I would like to show you how to interact with a MongoDB from Python. So the first thing, if we think about building applications, AI applications, we will frequently use Python. We did this, for example, this morning for our language model, our simple language model. And now let's imagine you have you're building an AI application and you have a lot of data that you want to use. For example, for training, then of course you might this data needs to be stored somewhere. So you need to first have the data, and of course it could be just files or things like that, depending on the kind of data. But let's assume the data is somehow in a database. So you collect data. This is stored, for example, in a MongoDB database, and now you want to use that for either training or inference in an AI application. So then you would maybe like to access MongoDB using Python. And so far we just used MongoDB with the front end, this client application, but of course, you can access it from Python as well, and that we can play with now. All right, so let's open up our project. And we have this. Something else. Let's close that. So we have our Mongo instance running on the machine. And now let's assume we build a so we have the Docker Compose, and the Docker Compose builds us two instances. And instead of using this my application that we don't use so far, we could change that to a container that is actually using Python. So let's go to our demo project. Yeah, to develop with Python, we should have a structure similar to the one that we use for natural language processing. So we could set this up. So we could have in the Mongo project a dev container that we can use dev containers here to program. And for that purpose, let's just briefly open the template that we have from natural language processing. Don't worry, we don't need too much of it. We basically will need the dev container thing. So I will copy that, copy it here. Kopieren. And no, it's wrong. Oh, what's happening? I want to have the other one. No project. No. Okay, it's copying obviously is difficult. So let's create a folder here. Container. Like this one, .dev container. And that. Yeah, we can do it. Okay. So we now have a Docker file, which is actually there to build up our AI infrastructure thing. And here you see the pip install. And here we could add my Mongo. So we now could debug and test this thing in one run. So the steps are more or less the same as I can. So you create a directory called dev container with a dot in front. It's important inside your Mongo project. And then you can copy these things, the dev container JSON, and this of course is not NLP container, but we call it now we could start our If it's not yet running, we could start our Mongo. Exit, yes, so we can start it. And then we could also switch this to the development version. And let's see what's happening in Docker. So here we have the Mongo project with our running server, and we have here the smart tutor dev container. No, that's another one. Here, Mongo project. This one is the dev container. No? It's running. Okay. Okay. So now let's try to start connecting to our MongoDB. And therefore, as I said, we use PyMongo. So we have already installed it. We have the MongoDB environment. So we need the connection string, which we can do. And there's this simple code fragment here. So I post you now this link in the chat. This is the official MongoDB tutorial for PyMongo. So you can access this. So let's copy that. This is kind of a fragment for accessing. So let's create a small script here. Test.py. And there we can insert something here. A try-catch block for error handling. And of course, you have to adapt these things here. So this is the API. For example, find one. It's very similar to the command line interface. So let's adjust this to our student DB, for example. Last time I did the student DB. We can use that for testing now. And we have to get the connection. No, I wanted the copy connection string, and we can paste it here. But now it's not localhost because it's running on my Mongo cluster. It's running. We are inside the Mongo cluster now, accessing the Mongo cluster. So it's not localhost anymore. But as our application is running in the Docker desktop as well, we need to access Modest Mahavira. That's Modest Mahavira is the name of the container. So I think that should be it's not the same for you. Yeah, so you might have a different one. Try. And it's probably here 0 because we are not on the local host. So now let's get the database student DB. Let's check again. Last time we have the database student DB in the collection students. So let's change that here. So it's student DB and students. And let's query something. What would work? Let's see. I think we had. There's no data in the collection. Okay. Yeah, but anyway, we can query something here. So this is basically the query in JSON notation. And of course, it's not movies, but it's database of students here for us. Or we can search for a student where we say, okay, what his name is. First name, I think, was there. First name. Alpha, for example. And we get the query and we say print student and client clause. So I think it's rather self-explanatory what you do here. Just so you ask your client to connect to the database, you get the collection, and then you execute whatever query on the collection and print the data. So that's a simple example of accessing Mongo. Let's try. Here this runs. I think we have maybe some. Okay, so any. It's not here, it's not mapped. So it has a Mongo app. Okay, now I'm there. Here it is. Okay. I'll restart. Now we can start here. And now it runs. Okay, it was a bit of configuration thing, but anyway, now it works. Just restarting the container with this Mongo thing here. Name movies is not defined, obviously. Yeah. Okay, there was a server timeout, so name of service. Yeah, okay. This was just basically a typo. So let's run it again. Modest Mahavira. Yeah. Okay, so we have a connection issue now, but the rest seems to work. So that's already a good news. So let's see what is in this. So normally with Docker, you can connect to a container using its container name. Maybe it's the wrong ports. Does it map this to everything? Let's see. No. No, that's of course wrong. The MongoDB, no, okay, sorry, that's a mistake. That's my own container. No, of course, it's this one, MongoDB 1. I guess that's of course nonsense. I cannot connect to myself. Let's do this one. That's MongoDB or MongoDB 1. Let's check. Okay, so the problem is connection. It's MongoDB 1 and it's Mongo project. Okay. It's Mongo minus project minus Mongo. That's the name of the container. Yeah, Mongo project, MongoDB1, something like that. Mongo minus project, group name, and then okay, so we have still Mongo minus project minus MongoDB minus one. I think that's the name. If we could connect to the local host. This is a special address, I think. Let's see, which I forget all the time. Yeah, host Docker internal. Let's try. I think this one should. So if you just access the local host, it's like that. Oh, but there's a why it's not connection? And it's that. We don't reach, so the problem is we don't reach our own Mongo instance from our container, which is, let's see, typical. Can we ping the other container from the Mongo project? No, from Modest Mahindra. Okay, we don't have ping here. Don't need sudo, sorry. We have pin bash here. Oh, yeah, so now we have a better shell. And now let's access the I'm student. Okay. Okay, that does not work. So the real problem is that the connection is not. So it starts the client unable to find document. So the error is actually line 15. Okay, this is the exception. Okay. And out. That's great. Let's check. Yeah, so it's a container name that you use. Okay, let's check the networks. This is a Wonder project default has its own network. That's the problem. And we have this dev container default. Okay, so we have to bring our dev container in this network, otherwise we will not connect. In the dev container. Okay, maybe this helps. Okay, this was okay, and failure because this was an error because this network, of course, does not exist. We need to use this one. Hmm. Okay, so the problem is that we have two different virtual networks. You can see this in Docker. But now if I force my container, my dev container in this network, I get also a problem, which is not nice. So maybe we need to will not work like that. No, it's a network issue. But I think we could have a look at our project from last semester, where we combined Docker Compose and Docker. Maybe this is a good idea. This was the Smart Tutor project. This is just a sneak. Sorry, I have to fix it. So it's just a short lookup, and then we will start working. I will share this code with you, of course. Smart Tutor here. Was it here? Oh, we are looking at the dev container stuff because it probably was not in the. Not good. Let's look. The real problem is that we cannot. Why don't it runs in the network? The problem is that this Docker Compose thing has its own network, and we would like to have it on the default network. Let's delete that. So that's not good. Let's remove that. So if someone has an idea that works, you're of course welcome to share it. My solution would be somehow to get this Docker this container inside the network for the Docker file. So let's see. Here we have the example. Okay. Okay. Okay, so let's redesign the project. We need to move the Docker Compose to the dev container, and instead of the my application, we now have the that. We don't call it my application, call it test. And our dev container, yeah, let's do it like that. So this will replace this here. So now we call it dev container. So now we have to adjust the dev container JSON to handle this. And this is like that, hopefully. Yeah. Let's see if this works. Okay. Arbeitsordner wurde nicht angegeben. All right, so we have to add this workspace folder, which is our local folder, obviously. Okay, dann ist das offenbar falsch. Obviously, this is wrong. But I think we're getting closer. Open folder, maybe? No. Go project. Yeah. This works. That's the one. And not yet. Okay, let's try. Was hat er für ein Problem? I mean, we had this running last semester in the project, so let me see. Let me go to Smart Tutor. This workspace, okay, service. Okay. So, sorry for that. And in the, what did we have in the? That was the same one here. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Die Verbindungskonfiguration ist ungültig. Ah, okay. Oh. Hm. Einbindungskonfiguration. Ah, das ist das Problem. Hm. Das ist ein anderer Fehler. It's a different error now. Sorry for clicking. Ah. Okay. We have to stop things. Now we are done. I think we have to stop this because we are blocking the port. That's the problem on the host. Okay. So with a bit of luck, will we open it now? Wonderful. Okay. Let's now start this one. Okay, of course, this is wrong. Now I need to access, I think, MongoDB. It's a Python extension again inside the container. So it can run. Well, out. And we get null. Perfect. Now it works. So great. That's it. Okay, I fixed it, fortunately. So now I can send you the changes. No? Probably the best would be to update the whole project as it was kind of a dev project anyway. So I will create a zip file for you and upload it in Moodle so you can, then you have everything. Yeah. Okay. So zip and it's -r recurse. And it's project zip. And then we just okay. So let me upload that for you. And I think this time it should work. Maybe let's do two changes here. One is one thing that I wanted to fix anyway. So one is, of course, we have to just remove everything here from the data file because that's So, oh, I think it was an error. I deleted the source, not this. Okay. Bum, 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 bum. I made a mistake now. Just so stupid. Oh, close this for the moment. Just a second. I made a stupid error. No. Okay, let me reopen it again. Okay. Yes. Okay, I wanted to make some small minor change here in the Docker compose because I think we don't need that. It was just trying the previous sessions. Okay, so now that's it. Let me create the archive once again. And then now I upload it so we can start playing. And then you have also the source for my test. And then let's set that up and try for everyone. If it runs, that would be the prerequisite for further studies with NoSQL. But, where is it? Yeah. Okay. Okay, here it is in Moodle. So please download that, unzip it, and then try to open it. So we should hopefully end up with the same setup then. update my compose. Okay, so did it succeed? Everyone able to download it and open it in VS Code? Other problems? Any questions? Okay, so if there are no questions, I assume now that it's running, so we could move on to a more practical exercise, learning a little bit more about accessing the database. So everyone should be able now to start this, open this project in the dev container again, like we had it already, and then you should be able to run this Mongo test, and depending on what you have in your students, you will get something or not. You can also change the query. So this is a NoSQL query, MongoDB query, as we discussed last time. So it's presented as a JSON, and we could of course do more complex queries here as well. Huh? So that's basically a very similar syntax to the command line API we tested last time. So it's automatic help here. So the process is the client object, which is a Mongo client for the URI, is opening the database. Then with the database, you can get the collection, and on the collection, you can execute the query. And of course, there should be not only find one or find, but also other functions like insert, for example. So let's try. Let's do a test first. Let's say, okay, students. Last time we learned insert one, and let's say we insert one, and we insert a Draco here. So for first name. Something like that, yeah. So insert one. And you see the output now is the object which we just inserted. And if you look at the wonderful compose, we can look that it's here. Yeah, so we already inserted now something. So insert works more or less the same as find, and find is the query. So last time we have seen also some possibilities to do more complex queries. So this is basically the MongoDB interface called from Python. Okay. All right. So this brings me now to our small exercise that we plan now to do, or that you should do, which you also can use then to get up. This is ready-made and running if it's not yet working. Okay, so that's of course another idea. So let me do a short exercise. While I'm typing, I will explain. So what is the goal? So we are in an AI setting. So for processing words, you have to represent these words as vectors. This morning in the NLP exercise, we actually didn't have to do that, as I already mentioned this morning, because these vectors are basically, or these words are basically used as words as an index for a table. Yeah, so we don't have to. We can work with text here, but for actually using NLPs, we need, for example, neural networks or other algorithms, machine learning, we need to represent them as numbers. Yeah? And we call this an embedding. We will come back to that next week. So we embed the words or the tokens as vectors. Huh? We come back to that next week. NLP is not so important for this now, but you can just assume that each word is represented as of an unknown length, let's say. Yeah, no, so can define that. And so to process a larger text corpora, we want to store these vectors in MongoDB. Yeah? So we need kind of a mapping for each word, and we want to have the possibility to. So this is task one. We need a collection to store the vocabulary and its embeddings. Second, we want to have a program that stores the embeddings of a text. We are going to read the text as we had it. We could, for example, use the cats or whatever. So we read and tokenize the sensor as we did this morning. So then we can use it easily. And we want to store that. Okay, it's the same thing. And of course, in the correct order. Yeah? So in the original. We want to be able to read back the text from the database, yeah? In terms of vectors or in terms of words, but it is in the right order. Okay, not something different. Okay, so that's the goal. And of course, this is not so. First of all, you have a text. You obtain the vocabulary. You want to store the mapping for each word to the vector, and then in the second step, you read an arbitrary text in and store the encoding in the database in another collection, for example, and be able to read that back with Python from the database and print it out. Huh? Or with a print command on the console. So the goal is to implement these simple steps using the example access PyMongo, and of course, this is something you should do now, and you can then upload the result here, the resulting program. Yeah? That's the goal, and it's not too complicated. The main goal for this is to learn a bit about the API. So you should go to this link that I send you, where you can find out how to handle the database using self-study, online tutorial. And we already set this up. So the setup is getting started, is now done. We can just really have connection, create a Mongo client. We had that. So it's now about, for example, CRUD operations, inserting things, how we do that. We just tried that with the insert one and so on. Yeah, so we can, you should look through that and learn it. Once again, if you use ChatGPT or any other ready-made solution, it is not good because you don't learn anything. Yeah, so that's more important to really do it yourself, finding it out. It's much more, but better for memorizing things. Huh? All right, so now let's once again let's do breakout groups for that, and let's see, not too big breakout groups. We'll do it automatically. So we'll do 4 groups. So there have been some participants have left, so we have 4 groups. And let me create these. Yeah, so the groups are quite small. That's good because then you have more fun doing things and discussing. And yeah, it's now 3:30, so we should have some minutes at the end to collect this. So I think in, let's say, 50 minutes, you should be able to do that and learn a little bit. Let's try. I will send you to the groups if there's no urgent question anymore now, or any question. If it is, please ask. So the task is now kind of teach yourself a little bit from the tutorial, a bit more about accessing the database and storing this vector. Just assume that the embedding, you can just choose a random vector. Yeah? So it's just in the vector because we don't know how to create embeddings now. We learned that. And it's more about handling the data. Yeah? So here in this lecture. So it's not important what's in the vector. It's more important to program a little bit with MongoDB and see how you could access it from Python, for example, because it's a typical case. You have your Mongo, you store some data there, or someone else stores some data there. You have your kind of enterprise data there, or use it as a storage, and then you want to read it, for example, for processing it with AI. Okay. Yeah, so this is a bit some instructions. I hope it's clear. And the goal is implement these 3 steps. So writing the dictionary or the vocabulary, writing text, converting it using the vocabulary, and then reading it back in the right order. Okay. Is it clear for anyone? So you can write this program just inside the project that we just set up together. No? Okay, so let's start. I will send you to the breakout sessions now and hope that everything is clear.